you wanted to? Oh.
Yeah.
Hold on, I want to see how much space I have to film it on.
Oh, they love these last minute things. Well, here we are, tasting in Torah, the Lad Ba'omer edition, where we're going to be talking about
Live
surprise.
Live Ba'omer.
Live. I like what you did there.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. By the way, we've both lost some weight since our last Instagram. Can you notice?
Right.
Yes, of course.
Raccoon.
Tzvi has lost a lot of weight.
It's called killing the raccoon on your head, on your face.
I thought it would be. Never mind. Let's get started.
Alrighty then.
Tell us about our Zmora. Oh yes, another karma.
Yes, this is the one.
Karma is a glitch. Yeah.
Karma's a glitch. Why would it be a glitch?
Just.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We're keeping it clean. Yes.
So this is wine from the center of the country, next to the city of Bet Shemesh. It's a little place called Tirosh. It's like a little moshav.
Tirosh is one of the Geffen.
Yes.
Hi, Rochelle.
Has to do with grape juice. Grape juice, Tirosh?
Hey, everyone. Tirosh is Verov Dagan v'Tirosh. Tirosh is one of the references to wine.
Yeah. So this winery, very interesting story for those of you who haven't heard. It's a non-profit winery, so what they do is they grow all the 7 species on their property, alongside their vineyards.
Just move out. The light's kind of making you look like a halo. Come, let's move to the table.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so basically, they allow people who are outside the land of Israel, who are Gutzlards, to purchase land in their vineyard, and then when they keep all the mitzvahs of the land that you're not able to do outside the land of Israel, the people who purchase land on their property get what's called the schar for the mitzvah. They get the credit for the mitzvah.
Yeah. So you get to participate. We've spoken about this in some of our.
Just in case people are watching, they're not privy to. So I don't know if any other wineries are doing this, but they're one of the. I think one of the few
It's a very nice idea.
Are doing this project.
Well, the people are now on using my Instagram as a platform for talking to each other.
Yes.
As you can see, Berta's talking to Linta. And whatever that they're getting sachar. They're participating in our whining.
It's okay. We saw Syrians live yesterday. Now we see them live again. Except, digitally live.
Well, so we got a lot of stories coming up. So I'm just while you're opening that wine,
sure.
I'm going to just write down wine. And this is a fun one. This podcast live is going to be specifically about starting with Jewish history and its relationship to wine and contemporary issues with the Israeli government and these complex issues of Israeli Jewish identity and how they deal with that stuff.
Yes,
that's going to be.
We're going to be careful today.
Yes, very careful because as they say, exactly. But first of all, before what we say, how about what we drink?
Yes.
So let's start with l'chaim, shall we?
No, here's to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
Would you say this is a Tova Hamitiv as well?
Could make that, yeah.
Well, let's start with Hagefen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri Hagefen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Tova Hamitiv.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam borei pri Hagefen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Tova Hamitiv.
So you're supposed to sound smart after you drink wine.
Just let you know, this has been Korovin for a while, so it hasn't been open, but it's been breathing slowly for like the past couple of weeks. For those of you guys who don't know what a Korovin is a little kind of machine you buy for $200 or $300. It has a needle, and what it effectively does is you're able to
extract wine
without actually opening the bottle. But even when you Korovin it, obviously you're putting a tiny little hole, even though most of it closes up. Corks naturally they seal up by themselves, but over a week or two it will slowly breathe. So this has been Korovin for 2 weeks, but it's actually nice because it got to breathe a little bit, and now we opened it. Now
it tastes ready. It tastes ready.
It tastes ready. Yeah.
So you've had a pretty interesting week in general, but more specifically an event that you had yesterday. So tell us about the event, and I'm just going to say it. I'm going to expect you to hear some of the stuff for the first time.
It was a one-on-one meeting.
A meeting.
Yes.
It was a meeting. So what's this meeting, and why is it so important?
Okay, so there's background to this. Before I tell you about the meeting, I'll tell you the
background.
Go for it. It's a whole jazz. It's a whole story.
I love jazz. Gives me the blues.
So basically, 6 months ago, let's say, one of the wineries that my partner and I, are in contact with, told me that the Israeli government has. What's going on over here? I just need.
I'm just having fun.
I know I hear, but this is my bank app on my phone. So okay, anyway, can't fund my money.
I'm just saying.
I need to access these things. That's why I need to know where they are.
Why do you have two of them?
I don't know, but
that's what I was saying.
I need to have at least.
Boom.
So yeah, I'd like to stay in the same place. If you don't mind,
I
know you have your thing with your ties.
It's your phone, man.
With your ties.
Me and my ADHD and everything needs to be
shoes and your whatever. Pedro, they know about this.
I had a roommate who called me my ADHD. He's like, you and your PhD.
Your lord, am I that uninteresting? Sorry.
No, it's just that is.
I know. I'm expecting, as you know, I'm having a crisis here.
Yes.
Some other entrepreneurship thing that I'm doing.
Exactly.
And I need to have access. Anyway.
So this meeting,
So one of the wineries told us that the Israeli government is contracting a PR firm in the United States, and what that PR firm is going to be doing supposedly is basically pushing the idea of Israeli wines and pushing the concept of Israeli wines, and Israel is a wine-producing country all over the United States. And I asked this winemaker, I said, well, do you know how they're going to be doing this? She's like, I don't know. This is very much in the beginning stages. This is back like 6 months ago. And I don't know. And, we're still planning this. And we're going to have meetings with other wineries. I guess, 20 or so other wineries. And she just basically told me the name of the PR firm. So I started researching the PR firm at that time. And I actually did not reach out to them. What happened was my partner and I had a meeting with the Minister of Economy for North America of Israel. His name is Inon El-Roi.
I like that name.
And so we had a meeting with him in the city. Him and his, I guess...
associates?
Whoever, well, yeah, they handle kind of like food and drink and all these kind of things. And we said, listen, we heard about this whole thing, and he said, yeah, I heard something in the wind about it, but I don't know much in detail. I would recommend something along the lines of, just watch out for it, but I personally don't know the details of it. I heard something is happening, da 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 da. Like, I didn't tell him that I knew. I just asked him if he knew it. You know what I mean? If he could put me in touch with somebody. So I was trying to kind of play off, kind of both, so to speak, sides.
Yeah.
He didn't know anything, and he doesn't know what the budget is. You would think if anyone would know, it's him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the Minister of Economy for who is liaising to North America of the Israeli food and drink.
Wait, that's actually a verb, liaising.
Like
a liaison. I know.
Liaison. He liaises.
He liaises.
I was. People go in interviews. They say
I am the liaison.
Yes.
I liaise. I liaise.
Liaise. Yeah, it's a word. It's a verb. Anyway. So
liaise in Hebrew would be like I have goats.
Or Selavan. I'm Selavaning. Salivating. Anyway, so my partner and I, we after that we kind of like said to ourselves, okay, we have to figure out what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So then I start emailing. I do some research on this firm, and I'm like, okay, you know what? These people seem like, kind of open to dialogue. They have all the contact information.
This is all 6 months ago.
This is about actually. I kind of forgot about it. Then about a month or two later. So now we're talking about 4 months ago, 3 months ago. I started slowly getting in contact with these people. What I did was I added the CEO of the firm on LinkedIn, and I added a couple other people on LinkedIn and on Twitter. And what I started doing is I started posting the content of myself and my partners, all the events that we do, all the talks, our spiel. Whether we're talking about specific wineries, we're talking about Israel as a wine-producing country, or the spirituality of wine, in Judaism, anything we're doing.
I'm wondering, by the way, I'm really wondering, do you have any online endorsements?
What do you mean online endorsements?
From anyone who you either did a show for or represented?
So I'll get to that. So it's not endorsements.
In my field, that works.
So I was trying to get to what I did was I posted all our content on LinkedIn, and I tagged the CEO who added me on LinkedIn, and he shared one of the thing that I did in the backyard. Remember in this last summer where I spoke about the wine, and the guy came from Roy, whatever, and he saw that video, which was like a grainy thing from like a Facebook Live thing somebody recorded, he reshared that on his wall. This is a person who runs the biggest PR firm for wine in America, sharing it on his LinkedIn wall. This guy in his backyard.
If I were to quote Mr. Burns, perfect.
Excellent. So, here's the thing. So, I kind of got on their radar, or the CEO, LinkedIn, Twitter, and then I basically, what I did was I emailed him, and then I emailed, there was like 2 other people that I CC'd in that company, and I said, listen, this is what my partner and I do, this is what we're involved in, I sent them all our videos, okay. I guess his brother, who's like the COO, whoever, whatever it is, he's in charge of like all the campaigns and stuff like that, he oversees it. He emailed me back. So listen, let's have him. First, he emailed me back. We're still in the planning stages. Let's be in touch in a couple of weeks. This is like already like 2 months ago or a month ago. Again,
did you hear that?
Yeah, that's a par for the course in our neighborhood.
Do you think that was were bullet shots?
I think that they had a parade today for like Boemer, so I think they're just kind of finishing up.
I hope so, because if those were bullet shots, I'm locking the door.
No, it's not bullet shots. You would know what bullet shots are. You would know, believe me.
I am from Israel, but I'm kind of wondering if it's a different bullet shot. Yeah.
Anyway, so they said we're starting this in a couple of weeks. Let's touch base in a couple of weeks. So whatever. So 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I touched base again, and I said, listen, can we set up a meeting somehow? And the guy basically responded, and then I just followed up with, if you, in the meanwhile, watch these videos and watch this content. So he responds to me, I'm up for having a meeting. I just want to let you know that we got directive from the Israeli government. Actually, you know what? Let me read you the email that you wrote. Your word for word, actually. Just 1 second.
And this is Netanyahu's government.
This is it's the Israeli
Ministry of.
There's like a few. There's like
Ministry of Commerce.
No. There's a import institute. There's like a few of these different organizations.
The question is who's behind it, because especially now under Bibi Netanyahu, I mean, we're talking about really pushing the Israeli narrative.
You have to understand. So I'm going to read to you what their directive is, and then we'll talk about what that actually means, and because we spoke about this.
Or to quote the robot from Wall-E.
Yeah.
Directive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So listen to this.
Sure.
Hello, I would be happy to meet you. This is the PR firm messaging me.
Yeah.
But then you'll learn why the PR firm is. Okay. I would happy to meet you and explain what we're doing in this campaign and see if there are any areas of potential cooperation, but I want to be clear about a few things. Mm-hmm. First of all, our task in this campaign is to reach out to the world of wine beyond the kosher and Jewish market and brand Israeli wine as a region on equal footing with other great wine regions of the world as Israeli wine and not Jewish wine.
Hold on. I'm writing something down.
That is a direct mandate from IEI, Israel Export Institute. I have seen your videos and the work that people like you in the Jewish Week, this is where I was a little bit confounded, and others have done over the past few years in bringing Israeli wine to the current point of recognition and expansion in the U.S. is great, but the goal of our campaign is to engage a different audience or the same audience with a different message. Secondly, only wineries that have joined the campaign can be included in our communications and activities, etc., etc. We cannot mention, maybe there's some cross-promotion, da-da-da. So basically, I immediately was like, okay, so the Israeli government... what's the funny part is that I gave the Israeli government the benefit of the doubt, like you just said. They want to push Israel and Jewish and this and this. So I'm thinking to myself, the Israeli government hired these people who may not necessarily be Jewish, and whatever it is, I saw what the work
you'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I'm saying like they're doing stuff with Italian wine and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh my God, these guys are going to totally drop the ball. They're not going to know what they're doing. And so I'm on the way to the meeting. and so before the meeting, actually, we spoke about this. How do I present this?
Well, I just had a comment.
You have a confusing look on yours.
A comment.
Yeah.
No, a comment.
Yeah.
Gary V.
Yeah.
Will say, you keep on posting the content of your unique thing, right? And one day, you just keep on showing your stuff.
Yeah.
And then one day, somebody's going to say, like, oh, there's this guy who does so-and-so. Like, I think you're working, and we're doing this stuff, but mostly you and your partner, you're doing all this stuff, putting it out. And one day, your name just comes up because you've been doing this for a while. You've created a niche for yourself.
Okay.
There's a lot of corporations that could have been there instead of you.
What do you mean there's a lot of... What do you mean by
This meeting could have been had with, let's say, Royal. They chose you for whatever reason.
They didn't choose me.
I'm
just one of many people they're having meetings with.
Okay,
fine. They're actually Royal is working with them on this project.
So good luck to Royal.
Royal and Allied and
Royal's whole spiel is kosher.
Let me continue, please. I will tell you about the meeting, and this.
How about building up some suspense?
I'm trying to tell you, and you keep. I'm
Good.
Sure all this came up in the meeting.
It's called having a conversation.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Roll with the punches.
No. I'm just.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to the parts where, because you're going ahead, you're jumping ahead. That's what I'm saying.
I'm giving the backstory to our listeners.
It's the front story, which you'll come to find out if you let me talk. That's what I'm saying.
You talk, I'll drink.
Please,
to quote Men in Tights. I mean, Robin Hood.
I just want to tell you, it was my partner told me, when you go into this meeting with this guy, you have to make yourself like a Hasidic Rav and make yourself what's called bittul, and do not speak for the first 20 minutes. And this is exactly what I did. I let the guy talk.
You do not speak.
No, really, this was.
It
was very difficult for me not jump in. I mean, the thing that kind of made it easy was because he was saying everything that I agree with. If there was anything that I didn't, it would have been harder.
So what happened in the meeting?
So basically, I'm on the way to the meeting, and I'm just like, I'm like formulating in my head all the stuff that you and I spoke about. Your father chimed in on, with some ideas.
We'll fill you guys in on that.
And I'm just going in through my own pill pull in my own head, back and forth, what I'm going to say, what he's going to say, this and that.
Just to clarify, this meeting wants to capitalize on Israeli wine without talking about anything that makes Israel uniquely Israel.
Yeah.
Definitely do not want to talk about kosher. They just want Israel to be on par with everybody else.
Yeah.
And the thing we were discussing was so without Israel's unique story, where's your competitive edge when your wine is much more expensive for whatever reason?
Exactly. Right. What is going to get people to purchase Israeli wine of the same quality as French, Italian, and Spanish, all things being equal, $40 versus $20? Right. That's going to be the thing that puts it. Okay. So I get to this meeting. Very nice guy. It's me and him. I thought it was going to be him and like a few other people, creative, whoever, directors, It was just me and him. He starts telling me the whole strategy. He goes, listen, we're basically trying to get this out of the kosher sphere, all the Israeli wines. We're trying to create a situation where you walk into a store and there is an Israel section. At the very least, we're trying to get this Israeli wines into the Mediterranean section, along with like stuff like Cyprus, Lebanon, Greece, like smaller wine-producing countries, but that have a name. So I listened to his whole thing, and I said to him, my friend, I think I agree with you about 95%. And then I started telling him my thing, but I told him, listen, my main concern is what we just talked about, that
the price point.
The price point in the sense of you cannot have this, if you're going to tell the story, because he said that he's going to tell the story of modern Israel and the modern Israeli wine industry. But I said, you cannot tell the story of the modern without all the while omitting the ancient. Because without the ancient, the modern does not exist. 2,000 years, all the vineyards that were ripped out, the wine presses, and our history, and even if you take away Judaism, even if you take away all these esoteric things, we had a wine industry. You can't not tell the story of Rome and all these things. Tribute to Rome, etc., etc., etc. So this is when conversation opened up. He starts telling me, I totally agree with you. We have to toe the line with the Israeli government. And it's political, it's this and that. And I start telling him, listen, it's more than just political. This is something deep-seated, and it's in every sphere of Israeli society, and also the government.
Many spheres.
Yeah, and where people are
These are unspiritual spheres.
Yeah. No. People are trying to escape themselves. They're essentially, people in Israel are trying to escape themselves. They're trying to be, the Singapore or the Hong Kong of the Middle East, and this is, they want to put themselves on equal footing with Spain, France, and Italy. They want to be connoisseurs. They want to show how, half the wineries, or a third of the wineries in Israel are not necessarily kosher, so let's get this out of the kosher thing, out of the Manischewitz thing, let's go and be like France and Spain and Italy. I said, fine, you can do that. You have Israel has the same quality, because he's visited these wineries, this guy. He's not Jewish. And I said, you can do that. But again, what is, apart from the people, and I told him the people that emailed me from California, from Texas, from Oklahoma, telling me that they're going to spend their last dime from, I don't know, Social Security check, and some old woman had cancer. She literally said, I had cancer, I'm in remission, I have my Social Security check, whatever extra money I have, I'm going to spend on Israeli wine, even though it's $10, $20 more expensive. I said, apart from those people, the diehard, Jets fans,
the Bible Belt,
who root for the Jets for 0-16, who's going to, who's going to decide to pay $40 for a Torah when they can get, Montepulciano, some non-kosher thing, for $15?
Right.
Or non-Israeli thing for $15 of the same quality, same caliber.
Yeah.
So this is when he opened up. He's like, listen, man, I grew up in Muncie, Italian guy. I grew up in Muncie. All my friends were Jews. All my friends, I had a lot of Israeli friends. People were in the army. People were in the Intifada. He goes, I worked for a Reform Jew, back when Reform Jews actually, were not what they are today. He's like, I used to build, it was a guy who was a carpenter, I used to build sukkahs for him. So this is where now the conversation opened up. And now we're having a back and forth banter, me and this guy. And he goes, listen to me. He's like, eventually, what you're telling me about, ancient history and even the esoteric part of the Torah, of wine and Torah and all these things, eventually, as part of this project, assuming this project goes longer than a year, 2 years, 3 years, we're going to have to pound this in over and over again. But even then, we're going to have to do it in a very careful way, because there's certain things the Israeli government wants pushed, and there's certain things they don't want pushed. So then I told him, listen, why don't you, why don't we start with already the built-in audience? We're talking about the evangelical Christians. Why don't we just go straight to them? We don't need to go to connoisseurs and all that kind of stuff. So he goes to me, in order to get to them, you first have to convince the people who are quote-unquote the sommeliers, the connoisseurs, and even the people who are the gatekeepers, the managers of all these stores, of all these chains, in every single one of these states. They may not necessarily be diehard Christians or crazy for Israel. You have to convince them that they should even put them on the shelves, and not only put them on the shelves, but put them front and center.
What was the 56 gold medals?
Sorry?
56 medals my father mentioned.
I mean, this is just medals that, probably more now, but just...
No, just recently.
Honestly, I don't know.
Fresh off the press.
I don't know.
Second after France in some sort of wine...
I guess it was international competitions. I'm not sure
no,
which
Israel
winery...
56... 56 international medals.
Yeah, I'm listening to what you're saying.
56 medals, and we came in second after France. In other words, we're talking century-old wine producers, vineyards, and here we are coming in second place.
Yep.
So Israel's current has to do with its past, and its past is one of the things that the land of Israel is blessed with. It's Eretz Geffen and Te'ana V'Rimon. It's one of the 7 species. It's saying this is a land whose soils, terroir specializes in producing this stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's that awareness that throughout history we've been a wine producing industry. And then there's the fact that in the first Aliyah in 1882, Sir Edmund de Rothschild funded the Carmel winery, 1882, which is all about recognizing Israel as a wine industry, and wine is not just for sacrament. Wine is also something that you enjoy. And even his awareness was putting on the corks the images of the 2 spies, the biblical spies carrying a big...
This is the one you handed to me.
Right, the one I handed to you, the one which was nice to have here, but it's in my room. So there's that connection of the new to the old and what Israel actually is, and the wine that it produces. And we just happen to be producing good wine. It's like, the whole beauty is this land is famously known as the land that produces wine, and that throughout history, wine has been in high demand and quality produce in this country. And it's only like the recent history where the Muslims, for example, because of the religious issues, they burned it down. But now there's the resurgence, not only of the usage of those ancient wines, but even Tzvi and Nachliel University is reviving a 2,000-year-old wine.
Is one of the wineries. So
that's the one. Yeah.
So I told this guy, I said to him, you guys have Gvaot here, right?
Yeah.
Gvaot, Tzvi Gvaot, he is resurrecting our ancient grape. One of our ancient grapes is called Jandali.
Right, Jandali.
And I told him, listen, you're going to pitch Jandali to people, but what the heck is Jandali?
Right.
like you have to explain to them what it is. So the question is, are you guys going to be explaining this to them? You know, I told them, like, you guys have another winery, Tura. The winemaker of Tura, she comes from a family, like, from
She's France, right?
Netherlands. Her grandmother, Holland, Netherlands.
I was remembering there's somebody French in one of the wineries.
Okay. No, very bestseller. Her grandmother has the same story as Anne Frank, except her grandmother survived. She also kept a diary.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, you get up in front of audiences, forget about Christians, I'm talking about anybody, and tell this compelling story of a winery. I mean, people are going to be shelling out more than $40 for this wine.
You know, it's our main point. We'll continue in a second, but the whole Simon Sinek famous TED Talk saying start with why. Mm-hmm. You know, what is it that you do?
Yep.
Right? Why do you do what you do?
Yep.
And then tell us what you do. So the story.
Yep. Can I read for you, by the way? I was just waiting for him to send me this, and he sent this. I didn't even open this.
Go for it.
My corp, and I'll read to you. This is all materials that they got.
Can I see the logo?
This is the Israeli. This is Wines of Israel. This is the official government. Very cool logo that they made.
Yeah, let me just show that just the logo.
Sure.
Here.
This is the logo that the Israeli government made for this campaign.
There's a love. There's Israel where the Mediterranean begins.
It's almost like the Olympics of Israeli wine. You know, like the kind of the design.
Okay. I mean, there used to be my colleague in Capoeira way back. He was working in Terravino. Like the wine.
Terravino's there's a proprietary award of Israel.
The Wine Man. No, there's also Wine Man.
Wine Man is a guy. No, Terravino's the award. That's the organization.
Terravino's the award. There's also Terra Olivo.
That's for olive oil. That's for olive oil. Yeah. So I'm going to read for you. This is the materials. This is the materials that they got from the Israeli government, and this is what they're going to go with, the concept. So it says, look east, here, where the Fertile Crescent meets the Mediterranean. So he was big on, like, the whole meeting. He was like, 1%, this is not the Middle East, it's Mediterranean. Not Middle Eastern wine, because people think of Moses and the desert. I said, even though we make wine in the desert, Ramat Negev, which is actually not part of this campaign. But he's like, yes, but, you know, they really want to push Mediterranean. They want to be with Cyprus and Greece and whatever. Meets Mediterranean. Wine was produced 5,000 years ago. Over millennia, it earned a reputation for quality and was sent west in Canaanite jars to ancient empires in Egypt, Greece, and Rome. For the local people, it was essential to their livelihood and culture, even their health, and became a sacred part of everyday life. So here, they're using language like, they're not using like religion and...
You know, it's very
sacred
clear.
Part of everyday life. Like, whatever that means. Let you figure that out. Today, in the same soil and under the same sun, internationally recognized and award-winning wines are once again being produced, inspired by tradition, driven by innovation. A new generation of Israeli winemakers are combining global training with creativity and viticultural expertise, and causing wine lovers in modern empires to look east. When they do, they will find that compressed within Israel's narrow borders are the ideal conditions for a modern, growing, quality-driven wine industry. Extraordinary climatic and topographical diversity, like 7 microclimates.
Climactic? And that's anticlimax.
Climactic.
Yeah. Got it.
A variety of soils, elevations, and growing conditions that allow for the cultivation of dozens of great varieties, both international and local. The world's most advanced agricultural and water management technology, from the country known as a startup nation, a youthful, diverse, and cosmopolitan population supporting a thriving restaurant and food scene based on fresh and simple Mediterranean flavors and ingredients. He told me, he's like, we want to really connect it with the food as well.
Yeah, of course.
They're actually going to be having a PBS special, like a crew going out there this summer, filming PBS specials on
Didn't Conan do something like that last time?
Well, Conan went just Israel Stam, like he did different things in Israel. They're specifically going to the wineries, and they're going to pair food with it. It's going to be a whole... It's like they're going to do what Anthony Bourdain did recently, but taking it much deeper into the wine specifically. Most of all, highly educated, passionate, competitive winemakers and growers and driven to fulfill the promise of the fertile land and advance Israeli wine on the world stage. Taste the warm sunlight and tempering breezes of Israel, where the Mediterranean begins. Welcome to Wines of Israel. Yep, he basically, what did he tell me? He told me that he was just, you know, again, this is a non-Jewish guy, and he visited the wineries, and he's like, listen, not all these people are religious, right? Mm-hmm. But you watch them and you see how they are with the land and with the soil and with the whatever it is, you know, how passionate they are about what they do and how connected they are to the land. He's like, honestly, to me, that's, you know, I look at them and I still see Jews who are connected to something.
So here's what
even if I'm wearing kippahs.
Here's my thoughts on this. The whole concept of religion, I think, has to die.
Yep.
It really does.
Well, this non-Jew sees what Rav cooks up.
Yeah,
Like-
because our connection is beyond religion.
Yeah.
Religion is like an add-on. It's not about religion. It's about being completely connected to the land and what it means, and just think like this. I had this conversation many times with my old roommate. Remember David?
Yes.
About what is it about Israel? You notice if you go through the stories in Tanakh in the Bible, the one thing that is constantly part of the covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, is just the land of Israel, and that's what it's all about. And the land is supposed to be an expression of a mode of living with God. So what does that mean? Right? The religious aspect is an add-on. It's supposed to be perhaps the means for an end.
So the question is, why is there? It seems like with all these avos, all our forefathers, there's always a push and pull with the land. Meaning, one had to leave, one had to come back.
Right.
One was conflicted. One came back to land. He had problems. He had left the land. It was great.
Yeah, okay.
One vice versa.
Oh, you're talking about the life story.
The life stories of how they had to. One had to. It was buried there, and they had to dig his bones and bury him here.
Because he wants to be buried in the land of Israel.
No, I'm saying like it's this whole push and pull. Meaning, some of them had couldn't stay there for too long, had to leave. Some of them had to go there.
Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, did not merit being buried in the land of Israel. Why? Because when he escaped from Paro, and he went to Midian, he obviously looked like an Egyptian, right? And the daughters of Yitro, including Tzipporah, who he later married, said, "An Egyptian saved us from the hand of those shepherds." He heard them say that, and he didn't comment. He didn't say anything like, "No, I'm actually Hebrew."
Yeah.
He said nothing, and that is why he did not merit being buried in the land of Israel. It's one thing not to be able to enter it, but he wasn't allowed to even be buried. Like, for example, Joseph's bones were brought in. We have it in Shechem. He did not marry, and that's where my father. By the way, if you ask him where are you from, he will say, "I'm from Israel. I was born in Chicago and grew up in Pittsburgh."
Well,
that's why he says it.
Interesting.
So the association with the land is very, very important. Whatever it is your life circumstances takes you, look, here I am.
Yeah.
Right, here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are without the terroir.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, here it tells you, actually goes into this, one of these PDFs goes into the history. See, it says, the art of winemaking is thought to have begun somewhere in the triangle between the Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, and the Sea of Galilee. Israel must have been one of the earliest countries to make wine. Actually, we know the first country ever to make wine was Georgia. And this was over 2,000 years before the vine reached Europe. The Israelites' interest in wine growing is a continual theme throughout the Bible and Talmud. Oh, so they mentioned this, okay.
You know that actually the story of Noah comes down from Mount Ararat. That's pretty much the region of Turkey, Georgia. Like, that's where agriculture started. We have the story that Noah planted a vineyard and became drunk. That's integral to the story. Just a cool point.
See, it talks about it was kept in amphora, cool dark places. So it says, yet after the Muslim conquest and the founding of the Ottoman Empire, the once thriving wine industry withered away. Winemaking in the 19th century was a domestic-based occupation purely for ritual necessity.
But you know what's interesting is that the Muslims invented spirits.
Yeah, I knew about that.
Now, they did it more for scientific experimentation, while the Christians adopted it for sacrament and for drinking.
Well, that's why they're called spirits.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm a spiritual guy.
It's funny because they always had grapes for eating. So it's like even now, the Arabs. There's like in Hebron, there's a whole vineyard run by Arabs where they sell the grapes.
Money?
No. There's a vineyard in Hebron run by Muslims, or in Bethlehem. So they sell those grapes to the people who make wine in Hebron. Moni is a separate thing. Moni is a Christian Arab who has his own wineries.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But then there's the Taibe brewery.
That's all. And winery.
Oh, winery as well?
Also Christian Arabs. I actually have a bottle here of Taibe. It says made in Palestine, Taibe. I still have to figure out how to get what's called a heter.
Just to taste
it. My rabbi said, you just don't make a blessing on it, then you just spit it out. But I just want to see what it tastes like.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's what sommeliers do anyway, so, whatever.
So as we say, shoot.
Yeah. It says 1880s, Jews started returning to Israel in search
1882.
1882, in search of viable work. Even before that, their efforts were supported and financed by the Frenchman Baron Edmond Rothschild, who was the owner of the famous Bordeaux winery Chateau Lafite. He founded a modern Israel Israeli wine industry with an enormous investment. He planted vineyards, built large wineries with deep underground cellars, sent French experts, including winemakers and agronomists. His best efforts to produce fine wine floundered on the lack of market for quality wine. In the 1980s, 100 years later, California expertise was imported to bring about a new world wine revolution, introducing modern techniques in both winery and vineyard. In the 1990s, small wineries making wines with passion and individuality heralded the start of a boutique winery boom, which has continued until today. In the 2000s, Israeli wine became more terroir-driven, making wine from single vineyards and identifying and separating characteristics from individual plots within a vineyard. Furthermore, Israel began to receive the quality recognition at the highest possible level for the first time. Wine today is one of Israel's finest ambassadors. So, it began with just people just making, there's a bunch of these wineries, you can look up every winery's history, 5,000 bottles in their house or some small facility. Now these guys are making, Psagot is making like 100,000, 200,000. It's just astronomically, just parabolically has gone up for the past, 10 years.
How many wineries are there in Israel?
Oh my goodness. Probably more than 300 now, 400.
No, we were talking last night to Moshe Elul, the owner of Amos Winery, and he was talking about a particular branch of his company going organic. I remember it wasn't the main company.
It's not Amos. He
has a separate.
So Amos, the grapes actually he gets from a place called Carmel Yosef.
Yeah.
So he has a separate
winery. It's next to Shechem, right?
No, Carmel Yosef is in the center of the country. Carmel Yosef.
Okay, just because Yosef Shechem.
No. I thought that too, but it's in the center. Yeah, it's in the center of the country. It's somewhere close to Modi'in area, whatever it is, or Rosh Hashanah.
Gotcha.
So he says the grapes they actually use in Amos they get from there, but he has a separate winery, just wine he makes in Carmel Yosef itself, and he said that winery itself will get soon a designation as organic. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting. So there's a whole thing, no pesticides, no.
So I was in Avnei Eitan for Pesach in the Golan Heights several years ago, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 years ago.
I'm going to tell you something funny on the Golan Heights.
They were they're the first, at the time, the only fully organic winery in the country. Yeah. Since then, I don't know what's happened. Even their labels were like something recycled organic.
So there's a few people that are doing homemade or small.
David says hello. David Selavan.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, man? Thank you for the.
He's like, sorry, I'm late.
Thank you for the what's it called?
The poster. The design.
Very nice. He sent it to me personally. He's like, hey man, this is what I made for you. I was like, wow.
How do you get your number?
Huh? No, on Instagram message.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then I shared it in the story. He's like, thank you. No, this guy. I wanted to say. Oh yeah, we were talking about Golan Heights Winery. Myself and this guy in the meeting. So many things, and he brought up certain. And I go to him. These guys are. You want to talk about people who are not exactly down with religion. There's a lot of wineries who sell kosher wine and they ship it abroad to the States, let's say, or ship it, or they sell it in Israel. The people who own the wineries, some of these wineries are not necessarily religious. Some of them are even kind of against it. So this non-Jewish guy goes to me, so I wonder how they feel about the annexation, or about our approval of the Golan Heights. And I'm like, well, I know for certain they do not want ISIS running their winery. That much I know. Everything else...
Maybe they'll make ISIS wine.
Exactly. Like we have ice wine here.
Exactly.
So, that much I know. I don't know the rest of the politics. I know they don't want, Bashar Assad or ISIS or whoever else running their facility. It's just interesting what this non-Jewish guy, I'm sitting in a meeting with him for an hour.
It's so
what he sees that people,
It's so interesting that in Israel, there's two trends, okay? There's Yigal Yadin, who excavated the Bar Kokhba revolt, the Bar Kokhba caves, the letter caves, which are currently the stuff that has been found is exhibited at the Met in an exhibition called The World Between Empires. And then there is Israel Finkelstein of Tel Aviv University. So Hebrew University and Tel Aviv University. Yeah. And Tel Aviv University, like Israel Finkelstein, are basically saying, look, the Israelites could possibly be, really native Canaanites or something like that, or whatever. And we're trying to basically deny what makes us unique in the biblical narrative.
Yeah.
And then there's Yigal Adin saying, listen, you can't stand in the city of Chatzor without seeing that the Tanakh is speaking true. So he has a lot of questions that come up. He's saying, like, let's have this conversation in Chatzor HaGlilit, in Chatzor in the Galilee, which is considered to be the most important city in the region of the north. Yeah. King of the North! Yeah. Like, that's a major issue. We're talking about how you date stuff, when it was born, and how it fits in. He's like, on the one hand, the Yigal Adin and Gadi Sukenik and all those people earlier on, the early archaeologists were really trying to with an agenda, digging up in order to prove our connection to the land through archaeology. In other words, it was less about archaeology. And I was just reading an article about Amnon Bentor, who got some sort of award recently for Israel geography and so on. And Amnon Bentor was talking about how back at the time, people were lamenting the compromise on the level of scholarship, because it's not about the scholarship, it's about proving our Zionist agenda through digging stuff up in the land.
You want to know something? I think at that time, was late 60s or 70s, I don't think it wasn't. We look at an agenda now, at that time, I think the zeitgeist of the world was, okay, the Bible it's all good. This is before Dawkins and all this new wave of crazy, like...
Well, it was about validating the Zionist hold on the land.
No, but there was no doubt about the Torah. The whole world understood. Even the Soviets who funded the Arabs understood, okay, these people, they were telling us, go back to your Israel.
Yeah, but this is people saying we have a historic right to the land of Israel as opposed to a religious one.
Okay.
But now it seems like this directive from the Israeli government is more tended towards the Tel Aviv University of saying, like, nothing unique about us, nothing special. You know, it was really frustrating. 3 years ago, I was in the Israel Museum, and there was an exhibit called Pharaoh in Canaan. Okay, so it's talking about, like, the 14th century BCE, Pharaoh Thutmose III, etc., where there's a connection going on with Israel. Abdi Chefa, the king of Jerusalem, is writing to the king of Egypt, saying...
Are you in the shots, or...?
Yeah, is the king of Israel saying to the king of Jerusalem, saying, I'm being attacked, etc., I need your help. So Jerusalem is really important, and Israel is mentioned. Okay, fine. So, not talking about dating the situation, the point is Jerusalem is an important city. Okay, so there's an entire exhibit about the Egyptian influence in the land of Israel, going all the way up to Beit She'an and further up. And there's a room there that's dedicated to the Exodus, the Yetziat Mitzrayim. It's an empty room. What are they trying to say? We have nothing to support the Exodus.
It's an actual. It's like kind of like
it's an exhibit in the Israel Museum.
It's like the Palestinian book about, you open the book on Amazon. It's an empty book, kind of like that, right? But it's not a joke.
Yeah. So there's a video there with Daphna...
Jews are really smart, even when they're trying to be... You know what? Very clever.
Daphna... What's her name? Darn it. Bentor... I'm blanking out. Yeah. It's not good. And Israel Finkelstein are the ones who were chosen to speak on behalf of this. Like, they don't even mention, for example, the stela which mentions Israel, right? When you're on a camera, you suddenly forget the name.
Yeah. I hear you.
The earliest mention of Israel in history.
Yeah. Whatever, it'll come to you.
The grandson or something of Ramses II.
Okay.
Not Amenhotep.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm blanking out.
You can look it up.
Right, Israel, Egypt, Stella. Just write Israel, Stella. It'll come to me by the time you figure it out.
Yeah. Anyway, so what was the Stella? Mirnapah Stella?
Marnaptah. Same thing. Marnaptah. The Mirnaptah Stella. What does it say about it?
Okay.
Read it clear.
Yeah, or the victory stela of Merneptah is an inscription by the ancient Egyptian pharaoh Merneptah. Okay, discovered by Flinders Petrie in 1896.
Yeah, Petrie, of course.
At Thebes, and now housed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo.
Right.
Okay, account of victory over the Libyans and their allies, but the last 28 lines deal with separate campaign in Canaan. then part of Egypt's imperial possessions. The stele is sometimes referred to as the Israel stele because the majority of scholars translate a set of hieroglyphs in line 27 as Israel. Alternative translations have been advanced but are not widely accepted. The stele represents earliest textual reference to Israel and the only reference from ancient Egypt. It is one of 4 known inscriptions from the Iron Age and that date to the time of the mention of ancient Israel under this name, the others being the Mesha stele,
the Mesha stele of Mesha, king of Moab,
and Tel Dan stele, and the Kurk monolith. As a result, some consider the stele to be Flinders Petrie's most famous discovery, an opinion which Petrie himself concurred. See, description and context.
Okay, that's enough.
Okay,
so first of all, to mention those 4 steles, the Kirk is a city in Turkey. The Kirk monolith is from Shalmaneser III, if I'm not mistaken, and it mentions Yehu, king of Israel, who is mentioned. Both of these kings are mentioned. That's a different picture.
Yeah.
Okay, the Kirk monolith is in the British Museum. It's also there's the Kirk monolith, there's the black obelisk, there's the white obelisk, whatever. It's an Assyrian king. Then there is the Mesha Melech Moab, which is 2 Kings chapter 3, which has to do with an important battle, the king of Moab and the king of Edom and the king of Israel, etc. Okay, and it mentions the kings of the Davidic dynasty and so on. Recently, Israel Finkelstein came out saying it actually might be talking about something else, about Bilam, and there's been an uproar about that in the academic world because he is not a philologist. He should not be the one giving an interpretation.
Interesting.
The philologist is the one who analyzes every
But at least he
single
mentioned some biblical figure.
Yeah, but he's basically saying it's not talking about us. It's talking
about those people. Okay.
Right now, he's trying to basically there's this active agenda to erase Beit David by us.
I think it's ironic that it's Bilam, where it's like, who was Bilam? What was the story?
Well, Bilam is actually mentioned in their Allah inscription.
Yeah.
We found a prophecy by Bilam.
But it's ironic that he's mentioning that it's like flipping and he's flipping the whole thing else.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it. Because Bilam is basically trying to find an alternative point of view to tell the story from another point of view.
Correct.
The interesting thing about their Allah inscription is that it's dated to the 9th century, which means during the kingdom of Israel. But then that's when it was written. It doesn't mean that that's when the story happened.
Yeah. Right?
Okay. Then there is the Tel Dan inscription, which is attributed to Hazael, the king of Aram, who is a 9th century BCE king, 9th, 8th century, who one of these self-aggrandizing inscriptions trying to take credit for the death of a king of Israel and a king of Judah, even though in Tanakh we know that's not the ones who he wasn't the one who killed Yehu.
Yeah.
Right? He was shot, but then he goes home, and then there's not Yehu, Yehoahaz. And Yehu actually kills him. And that's the story where Jezebel dies. It's a whole story. But anyway, so those are 3 mentions. So the Tel Dan stela, which is found in the 90s, is the earliest mention of the Davidic dynasty, which means a massive enemy of Israel in Aram, in modern-day Syria, around Damascus, takes credit for killing a king of the Davidic dynasty.
Wow.
And that means there is a house of David.
Wow.
Right? So...
it's funny how our enemies will, uncover our existence, basically.
Yeah.
If you have any doubt about, you don't believe a Jew, believe a non, believe someone who hates us.
So we have this issue in Israeli society where there's a people who do not want to acknowledge our having a legitimate history in our country.
Not only history, exceptionalism.
Being exceptionalism. Yeah. You need to accept exceptionalism. Yeah. It's to recognize there's something special about you, and it's so frustrating. Can't you see what Israel is doing?
It's funny. How do you know there's something special about us? Look at the negative stuff. Whenever there's Gaza issues with Gaza, Hamas, it's like we get all even apart from that, people accuse us of disproportionate response. Just today, again, they tried to have another UN resolution, World Health Organization resolution against Israel.
Now what?
Again, with the Gaza, because it's bad for... Dying is bad for people's health. So if Arab children are dying, then that means Israel is bad for the world's health. As opposed to all the cancer we cure and all the heart... as opposed to the organization that we have called Save Charles Heart, where we bring kids from Gaza to fix their hearts.
You know what?
Instead of putting them on
we just showed you on Instagram by Joey Dweck, for the senior rabbi of the Spanish Portuguese in London. Somebody asked him in a Q&A, what do you do to combat the impact of BDS? And he says Israel is going to keep putting out so much good that you won't be able to ignore them.
So good you can't ignore.
Exactly. So let's pour some of this unignorable goodness.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's interesting that they still don't realize that, for better or worse, we're exceptional, and the world singles us out. There's a reason they single us out. They just it's funny. Like every time I've spoken to a person in the Hasbara field or any Israeli official, and I bring this up, and they just don't get it. Like they literally look at me like I have 7 heads.
I think they need to hydrate.
Yeah.
Let's hydrate. L'chaim, to all you watching, good stuff. Good stuff is happening. Hold in there.
Anyway, so this guy basically told me at the end of the meeting, he goes, listen, he said right now, because I asked him, like, listen, is there, my partner and I would have these events, down pat. We know, I can list you all the 25 wineries. We know all these guys personally. We know everything about their wineries. We know the stories. We have a whole spiel, so to speak, that we do. And he said, right now we are, the budget is set. The speakers are set. They're going to get some sommeliers, like some Jewish, some not Jewish. They're going to start, having events all over the country. And he says, listen, you guys are going to be doing this parallel kind of with us, and at some points we're going to converge. So he's like, let's keep in, he told me, let's keep in touch.
Wow, that's major, man.
And I know he's not just feeding me, lip service, because again,
you just say election.
Yeah, because him and I are in agreement. I told somebody yesterday, our friend, I said,
did you golf with? Did you set a date to go golfing with him?
Golfing. I don't know if he golfs, but I said...
Maybe gulping.
Exactly. So he and I are in agreement, but the Israeli government's not in agreement with us. Let's put it that way.
Listen.
But since he works in PR, he knows how to...
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And
it's sort of like...
I'm going to let him do his thing.
To quote from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the man is like the head.
Yes.
But the woman is like the neck. And the neck can make the head turn.
Exactly. So whatever, I'm going to let this guy be the neck. And he said, listen, we can do something in the future. But he's like, listen, by all means, you guys have anything on social media we can share. You can share our stuff. We'll share your stuff. I know that he's not feeling lip service, because I know that his brother already, the CEO, I tagged him, but I didn't ask him, can you please share this on your personal LinkedIn wall? And God knows who's on there, people from all kinds of crazy publications seeing these things, so who knows?
Well, some concluding remarks then. We're seeing some great stuff, great things happening, great processes. It's a time of Geulah, it's a time of redemption. It's this time in the Omer, in the year, Yom HaAtzmaut, Yom Yerushalayim, Israel's independence, the liberation of Jerusalem. A lot of good things are happening, and there's a lot of potential in this time that needs to be unlocked. And like fine wine, sometimes it takes some fermentation, it takes some aging, but it's all going to come about. And we're seeing some really, really good things happening in our personal life, in our professional endeavors, which we're both, as an entrepreneurs, we're really doing something that we care about, whether it's wine, whether it's education. This more is about your story today, but there's a lot going on my end as well. From involvement in the National Bible Contest to ideas of how to bring my stuff to Israel. And I'm struggling with the same issue. As I had an idea of reaching out to the Israel Museum's youth department and saying, hey, let's do something national scale with what I'm doing now. And I know that this could work. But the Israel Museum has this Jewish complex. They don't want to have anything to do with Jewish.
It's really weird. They're in Jerusalem. They have the Israeli wine festivals. Most of the wineries are,
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like even the Israel Museum was founded by like Bezalel Narkis and Cecil Roth and people who were striving with an agenda, with fervor, to show that there is Jewish art. So they go through all this Judaica. And yet, when it comes to anything biblical, it's like there's a disconnect. And like,
this is Jerusalem. It's not Tel Aviv.
I know, but the Israel Museum Jerusalem, it was all part of that agenda.
It's crazy.
To legitimize our place amidst the nations as having art.
How do you think Bibi feels about all of this? Meaning that there's people, meaning he doesn't appoint all of these people, but there are people in his government.
He was involved in Liv HaOlam, wasn't he?
he wasn't involved. He endorsed
all
it.
the packages.
He endorsed it. No, but I'm saying, like, what can he do about this? Or are there just too many bureaucratic levels that he just can't even get into or down to even, you know what I'm saying, to make sure that, like, the right, because I know that he's into the Tanakh, he's into all these things. You know, his son, again, recently he's like, I put on tefillin, and, they tweeted.
You know
it's
what?
The whole thing, like,
I don't know.
there's distance between certain levels of government and the
I
prime
don't
minister.
know. I don't know if there's any way to get to him, but we just got to keep on doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And, hopefully it'll work out.
It's from the grassroots, it seems. Bottom up.
But it seems like things are happening now.
Yeah.
Look, the fact that you had this meeting, dude, this is major.
Huge. It's huge the fact that they even gave me
it's,
the meeting.
It's rewarding in the end because what you're doing is really about value as opposed to about money.
Yep.
The money will come, but this is something really special. All right.
Well, we have to realize in the end that there's most people don't realize a lot of non-Jews, more than we think, love us. They realize what we have more so than we ourselves, and they want to help us, and we have to enable them to help us. Help me help you.
So let us make a toast to exceptionalism. And as the midah of this week is Hod, which has to do with the outward expression of something. That's why we light bonfires on Lag BaOmer, because fire is the ignition of the hidden potential in something.
Yeah.
Right? And with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in Hod Shebehod, we see that why do we light bonfires? It's because we see him as expressing the full potential that he has, and this potential is coming out. And tonight, I didn't make the blessing yet, so I'm not going to count. But the count of tonight, kabbalistically, is what's called Yesod Shebehod, and Yesod has to do with how you relate something to the world outside of you, how something can be poured out. Yesod literally means base, but it has to do with interconnection. Of the expression of existence itself. That's what we're doing, and that's what we're seeing today, and it's really could not be more timely than that. And so to exceptionalism, l'chaim.
Awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.